He saw it as the greatest engine of human progress, a system of fierce competition, innovation, and rising living standards. Adam Smith, Karl Marx, they argued about it, dreamt of it, feared it. But what if the entire foundation wasn't built on solid ground, but on a colossal, self-serving lie? A lie that promised infinite wealth, but was built on an invisible tower of debt? A lie so intricate, so pervasive, that even its architects, the central banks, now defend it with the same fervor they once used to hide it? Welcome. This is the story of the trillion-dollar lie, the hidden mechanism that engineered the engine of modern capitalism, and why it's a lie we can no longer afford to believe. Think back. Before central banks, money was different. Gold and silver, backed by tangible value, circulated as coins or banknotes convertible into that metal. Economies grew, yes, but growth was organic, tied to productivity. Infinite growth seemed impossible, perhaps even absurd. Then came the 20th century. Nations needed vast funds for wars, infrastructure. Printing physical currency was slow. A breakthrough, fractional reserve banking. Imagine a bank holds only a fraction of your deposits as reserves, the rest it can lend out. That loan becomes someone else's deposit, and a portion of that is lent again. It's like a financial multiplier. A single dollar through this process can become many. But this was the mechanics. The system itself? The idea of limitless, perpetual economic growth. That was the core illusion. How could an earthly economy, finite in resources, truly grow forever? The lie wasn't just borrowing. It was the belief that this borrowing could be sustained indefinitely, creating value out of thin air, allowing the fiction of infinite growth to be perpetuated. And the orchestrators? The central banks, born in the 19th century, like the Bank of England, precursor to the Fed, initially tasked with managing currency and gold reserves. Their role would evolve dramatically. The Great Depression exposed the old system's fragility. Then came World War II, massive government spending. The solution: control the money supply. Enter Keynesian economics. Governments borrow, central banks lend, and the engine of demand is restarted. But the post-war era saw a shift. Central banks moved away from the gold standard. Dollars became a global currency, unmoored from physical backing. The illusion of infinite credit could now extend far beyond national treasuries, and today, the global debt pyramid dwarfs our planet. It's a staggering, almost unimaginable sum, built on promises that must be repaid, interest included, forever. So how does this engine actually run? It's not magic, but it's a system designed to perpetuate itself on debt. Think of it like a giant, perpetual monopoly board. The central bank is the banker, constantly shuffling money, creating new play money, credit, whenever needed. Businesses borrow to build factories, consumers borrow for cars and houses, all fueled by this newly created credit. The key is interest. Every loan must be paid back with more money than was borrowed. This interest feeds the system, ensuring that debt increases over time. But here's the crucial part. When you borrow money to buy a house, for example, that loan becomes part of the money supply itself. It's a deposit in the banking system, which can then be lent out again. This is called credit creation. Much of the money we use isn't created by central banks directly. It's created by commercial banks when they issue loans. It's like a faucet in a vast, interconnected plumbing system. Central banks can adjust the main water valve, monetary policy, but the commercial banks are constantly tapping into new sources, issuing loans, to keep the pipes full. This process generates inflationary pressure. More money chasing the same goods and services. But wait, inflation should erode the value, right? Yet the system keeps growing. Yes, the system relies on debt deflation. As the economy grows slightly, or even just due to rising asset prices, the real value of existing debt decreases. This makes more borrowing seem affordable, fueling further growth and creating the illusion of rising prosperity. It's a virtuous cycle built on mounting obligations. The lie is that this endless cycle can continue forever, that the value created by this growth somehow offsets the interest payments and the inherent fragility of lending on paper. But systems don't build themselves. They require constant inputs. The inputs for this perpetual motion machine: borrowing and asset price appreciation. What happens when the cycle can't continue? The 1970s offered a preview: stagflation, high inflation, and stagnant growth. The system was breaking down, but the response was more of the same: borrow more, inflate the currency further. It didn't solve the core issue. Then came the Great Moderation, fueled by low interest rates and cheap credit. Asset prices, houses, stocks, soared. Debt levels exploded. The engine ran on borrowed time. The tipping point arrived in 2008. A complex web of subprime mortgages, loans to people who couldn't afford them, backed by intricate financial derivatives, finally buckled under the weight of unpayable interest and rising defaults. Banks, starved for cheap capital, started hoarding cash, raising interest rates dramatically. The plumbing system started to clog. Credit froze. Businesses couldn't borrow, consumers couldn't buy. The central banks, the orchestrators, panicked. Their engine was stalling. They needed to pour fuel directly into the system. They lowered interest rates to near zero, unprecedented levels. And they did something else. They flooded the market with trillions of dollars, euros, yen, quantitative easing. Central banks, the very entities that should manage credit, created money directly to buy government bonds and inject liquidity into the banking system. This was the ultimate move, ignoring the rules of the game, directly creating the money they were supposed to control to bail out the system they helped create. Felt like cheating, but the lie deepened. They called this stimulus, or printing money. They claimed it was necessary to prevent total collapse. They ignored the fact that this massive new money creation would eventually fuel inflation, erode savings, and further inflate asset prices, rewarding the very system that needed fixing. The crisis was over, but the foundation wasn't. The illusion of infinite growth, fueled by debt, remained standing. The central banks had merely reset the game, but the rules stayed the same. And this brings us to today. The global debt mountain continues to grow. Interest payments consume a larger share of GDP worldwide. Asset prices, houses, stocks, have surged far beyond what wage growth can easily match. We live in a world where the rich get richer, and the value of everything else is diluted by the sheer weight of debt. The system relies on constant debt rolling over, old loans being refinanced with new ones. It's a Ponzi scheme on a planetary scale. The growth isn't creating new wealth. It's just moving claims on existing wealth further into the future and concentrating it. The injustice is palpable. The system promises prosperity for all, yet benefits accrue disproportionately to those who control the financial system: the bankers, the central planners, the owners of capital. The burden of servicing the debt falls on wage earners and future generations. Trust erodes. Skeptics see the machine for what it is: a carefully constructed illusion, maintained by institutions that now seem more like guardians of the status quo than arbiters of truth. So what are the consequences of this trillion-dollar lie? They ripple outwards, touching every facet of modern life. First, the illusion of cheap money. Central banks constantly signal that borrowing is safe, rewarding risk-taking. This encourages excessive leverage, taking on too much debt across the entire economy. It fuels speculative bubbles in everything from real estate to tech stocks to art. When these bubbles burst, the damage is catastrophic. We saw it in 2008 in .com, in tech wreck. The destruction of wealth is immense, and the recovery is always hampered by the need to clean up the mess, often with more debt. Second, the race to the bottom on interest rates. When rates are near zero, the only way to make money is to take on more risk. This pushes investors into riskier assets or into complex financial instruments that can be opaque and dangerous. It distorts markets and makes the financial system inherently fragile. Third, the erosion of purchasing power. While asset prices soar due to cheap credit, wages often struggle to keep pace. This widens inequality. The wealthy benefit from rising asset valuations, while the middle and working classes see their real income stagnant or declining. This is the injustice at the heart of the lie. Fourth, the burden on future generations. Today's debt is tomorrow's problem. Current consumption is funded by promises to future taxpayers. This raises fundamental questions about sustainability and intergenerational fairness. Fifth, the crisis of representation. Who truly controls this system? The politicians are beholden to powerful financial interests. The voters are often kept in the dark by the complexity and the propaganda surrounding growth and economic health. We have an economic system designed for the few, masquerading as one for the many. And then there's the psychological toll. Living under the pressure of this perpetual debt cycle, chasing growth that seems always just out of reach, fosters anxiety and a sense of powerlessness. We are told we need to grow our savings, buy a bigger house, but the system itself is inherently flawed. The environment suffers too. Infinite growth on a finite planet is a recipe for disaster. The resources consumed, the carbon footprint of constant financial activity, the diversion of investment from sustainable projects, all are consequences we ignore at our peril. And finally, the loss of genuine savings. Savings are supposed to be capital set aside for the future. In this system, much of what we call savings is actually just debt, promises to pay. The distinction blurs. We live in a world where borrowing is often mistaken for saving. The central banks, once guardians of trust, find their credibility eroded. Their pronouncements about inflation, growth, and stability are met with skepticism by an informed public waking up to the mechanics. So, where does this leave us? We have a system built on a lie, the lie of infinite growth through debt. The mechanics are understood, the crises have occurred, the consequences are real. The injustice is undeniable. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: the system can be challenged. We saw the 2008 crisis spark a questioning of authority. We see movements demanding systemic change. We see people losing faith in the institutions that created the mess. The lie is fragile. It relies on complexity, on propaganda, on the acquiescence of the governed. When people understand the mechanics, when they see the injustice, when they demand transparency and fairness, the foundations of the lie begin to crumble. This is not about rejecting growth. It's about rejecting debt-financed, inequality-exacerbating, unsustainable growth. It's about demanding an economy that serves people, not just finance. An economy that respects the planet. An economy that is trustworthy and fair. The stage is set for a reckoning. The question is whether we can dismantle this elaborate system before it collapses entirely, taking with it the real economy and social cohesion. We stand at a crossroads. The illusion persists, but the truth is becoming harder to ignore. The choice is ours. Do we continue down this path of ever-increasing debt, widening inequality, and environmental destruction? Or do we demand a different system? Understanding the mechanics is the first step. Recognizing the lie is crucial. Questioning the injustice is necessary. The stage is set. The performance continues. Will we watch or will we intervene? Thank you for listening.